welcome back to Between Miles. Today we have quite a personal episode for you.
We do.
We're going to talk about how running healed our relationship with food and body image.
Yeah.
And we want to give a little trigger warning at the start here. If you are struggling with your body image, food, and you're just not in a spot yet where you feel comfortable watching these things, then maybe skip this.
Yeah.
If you feel like you are on your healing journey and I don't know, maybe you've regained a little bit of self-confidence, then I hope that this video will help you. Because I wish that this video had been there when I was on my journey to recover.
Yeah.
So hopefully it will help some of you. We do think that this is a topic that, unfortunately, is very relatable for a lot of runners.
It is definitely, especially for females out there.
Yeah.
I know for everyone, but I think especially us.
A lot of people get into running because they want to lose weight, but then they get stuck. Do we need to go straight? Yeah.
Straight.
And they get stuck into this negative spiral. They start running because they think I'm gonna lose weight, but then they also start tracking calories and they get over obsessed. So yeah, I hope that this episode kind of maybe sheds a light on where we were and how running eventually helped us get out of that.
Yeah.
So we're both gonna tell our story.
Oh.
We don't actually fully... What's happening here? We're going straight?
Yep.
Okay. I guess we try.
Oh, we could do another there's a road up there and then down again.
Let's do it.
Yep.
Okay, so we're both gonna tell our story. We actually, we don't really know each other's story that well.
No, but it was one of those things, I think it was brought up in a conversation, and
Yeah.
weirdly enough, it's not very surprising, I don't think, when other female runners have had a problem with food or exercise.
Struggled with the same
So
thing.
yeah. So
Yeah.
even though it's a different situation, I think I've been in many situations where you bring something up and someone's like, oh, I went through something really similar.
Yeah.
And that sort of happened and we touched on it. So we thought it would be a great topic to
touch on.
yeah, exactly.
Talk about and kind of bring you guys through or with us on this journey.
Yeah.
So, I mean, who kicks off?
You can kick off if you like.
Okay. So, I've told this in another episode how I got into running. I was a student, drinking too much, started to run to be a bit fitter. Actually really enjoyed it, and I think especially at the start, I didn't really have a notion of losing weight.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I knew I was doing it to be fitter, but not necessarily weight-wise. Then, as time progressed, I started looking more at myself. I started to realize that I kind of liked this slightly slimmer, healthier version of myself, which at that point was healthier, I have to say.
Yeah.
It was not like I was anywhere near where I got at my lowest. I had just balanced it out with the alcohol consumption.
Yeah.
That's where I was at.
Basically, you were at the perfect point, weren't you? I think a lot of
Yeah.
people find that the perfect point, and then it goes a bit too far.
Yes, so indeed, I found the right point. I found where I should have stayed. But then instead of that, I think I started running more. And I went through a weird journey where, yes, I wanted to be fitter. Yes, I like this.
No,
I think we can just go down.
Yeah.
I think it will just take us back to the valley. Shall we just try?
It says a dead end.
So basically I got to this, just to recap, got to this healthy point, started running more though. And I think I was in a weird journey where I enjoyed becoming lighter.
Yes.
But I did actually not know anything about nutrition or fuel.
You're feeling faster.
Yeah.
Clothes are fitting nicer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in my head, I guess, I was just not focused really on nutrition at all.
Yeah.
And it's not that I was trying to limit myself, but I just didn't know.
Yeah.
Then as time progressed, I was traveling a lot and I got into really stressful situations. And I ran more, ate less.
Yeah.
And I think I can go into more details there, maybe in a little bit. But basically that led me into this negative spiral of running, undernutrition,
Did
and
you,
losing
I know
weight.
this is a personal question, but did you ever get into tracking calories and getting really into the sort of like numbers side of things?
Yeah, so it's funny, like, I've been thinking about this, and I thought, when did that even ever start for me?
Yeah, what was that
Because-
trigger point?
Yeah, it did start. And the thing is, I lived in a few other countries for a while, and when I lived in Brazil, I lived with a girl who I thought looked really good, and she was tracking. And at that point, I thought that was a little bit of a stupid thing to do.
Yeah,
But I also thought that she looked healthier and stronger than me, you know, and better.
yeah,
So I thought, okay, let me also do this. And I always found it very embarrassing. So I never told anyone. I never showed anyone. But I was tracking.
yeah,
And you get into this point where you're like checking every single label.
yeah,
And you put it in. And it becomes a very unhealthy situation where when you go out for dinner and you look at the menu, you're just calculating in your head.
yeah. And if you don't know what the numbers are, it's really stressful, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think that's the point where I did start to realize that this was not a healthy thing.
Yeah.
But I wasn't like, it took me a little bit of time to go down the rabbit hole where it was not just about, okay, what numbers are on there, but also what number do I want to hit?
Yeah.
You know, like, obviously you can be very aware of what you're eating, but it became more of, let's see kind of like how, what feels good and where's the balance for me. And I guess I just didn't have any knowledge really. So I didn't know what was normal. I didn't know what was healthy. You hear these numbers, right? Like,
and you're like, maybe I can go lower. Maybe I can go lower.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I never tried to push it too far, I think.
Yeah.
But what my big problem was, so you hear these average numbers. I think it's something like, you know, X calories a day. And then for women, it might be slightly less, especially if you're smaller like me.
Yeah.
But the one thing I was not taking into account ever was that I was running.
Right.
So I was, you know, hitting maybe, say, if X it was advised, maybe I was at X to X.
Yeah.
Or X. I didn't mind hitting that number.
And I think we'll bleep out the numbers for viewing purposes.
Yeah. But what I completely forgot was, like, I'm running.
Yeah.
Besides everybody being different, so already these like average guidelines are stupid.
Yeah.
And they don't work for everyone. Besides that, I was being active.
Yeah.
And I did not take that into account at all. So, and nobody told me.
No.
And also nobody can tell you because it's a secret.
Yeah.
So it became really messy.
Also, it's very different for everyone.
Yeah.
Isn't it? So what's normal for you isn't normal for someone. So someone advising you is so hard.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
And I guess on that, how did you get out of that situation that you were in?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Because obviously now we're both healthy, happy.
Yeah.
We like running, we like food.
So much faster, so much better.
Yeah.
A lot has changed.
So how did you get to this point now?
So at some point, I remember having in my head, like, I'm never going to quit running. I don't know how to stop. One day I just broke. And I kind of stopped running. At that point, though, I think in my head, I was still a little bit screwed, you know?
Yeah.
I was not healed. Then, when I started running again, about a year and a half ago, I took a very different approach to running. And it became this thing that I wanted to be good at.
Yeah.
And I realized quite quickly that to be good at running, I actually needed to fuel.
Yeah.
That helped me a lot. So I slowly started to see fuel as necessary for running.
Yep.
However, and this is also important, I was intermittent fasting. But I did like to go out for a run in the morning.
Yep.
So I always ran fasted. Now I know better.
Yeah.
It definitely slowed me down. I also ran my races fasted.
Yeah.
Which I'm almost... Yeah, like now I'm almost embarrassed to sometimes say that.
Yeah.
Because what was I thinking?
Yeah.
Now,
I think especially for us girls, right? Our hormones go like, whoa!
I think once you like get into knowing a bit more, it helps a lot. So I started to slowly experiment and to allow myself to experiment.
Yeah.
And I realized, hey, not only do I feel better, I'm actually getting faster. And, you know, like you also, like, when do you stop trekking, for example, right?
Yeah.
For me, that had already stopped. But it's a slow journey to also stop trekking in your head.
Yeah.
I think you can throw away the app, but your mental models are quite solid.
Oh, yeah.
But then when you start running and you start to realize, like, hey, this body needs more, it really doesn't make sense to do it anymore. Now I'm a big believer in, you know, doing it intuitively.
Yeah.
Feeling what my body is telling me it needs. And then adjusting to that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it took time. One thing that helped me as well is my partner is very much into food.
Yeah.
Would never think about trekking. And having somebody like that next to you is helpful. It can also be a friend or a sport dietitian.
Yeah.
And going back in my own journey, basically I was abroad. I came back finally to the Netherlands and I was underweight. And a lot had led to that, especially a lot of stress as well. And my parents brought me to a sport dietitian. That was a good move, because that way I didn't feel like I was just sent to a dietitian, but it was a sport dietitian. But looking back at it, I kind of wish they had brought me to a sport dietitian
Yeah.
and a run coach.
And I think it's knowing that, I think sometimes on social media it's sort of like you need to be at this like incredible low to get help.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's the case.
No.
I think you can seek help way earlier.
The earlier you get it, the better probably.
I definitely wish I'd known that.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wish I had had a combination of the two.
Yeah.
Because I think it would have helped me to see food as fuel way earlier.
Yeah.
And to see, hey, this is actually helping me. I'm actually getting stronger.
Yeah.
And you know what? I actually like to have a strong body
Yeah.
and not just skinny.
Yeah. Yeah.
So getting to the point of I will take strong and healthy any day over a low number on the scale
Yeah.
is so much better.
Yeah.
What about you, Liz? Like, how did it start for you? And then after that, we'll get into how you got out of it.
Yeah. So I guess it started for me. I've always had a different relationship with food because I was a swimmer growing up.
Yeah.
And that's something that's highlighted when you're in high school. I had a coach that told me if you were skinnier, you'd be faster.
Yeah. Which also I
You
think
should tell no one at like 15.
you
But
shouldn't.
anyways.
And I feel like that also happens a lot in running and especially track and field,
Yeah.
where people, or
And a lot
especially
of
kids,
sports.
hear this.
So
Sure.
many sports.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's always been that inkling in my mind. Hi guys, you guys are cute. And we go wiggling. So then yeah, when I actually had my most problematic relationship with eating was in lockdown.
Okay.
When I was partying loads,
Yeah.
I was just on a mission to become as skinny as possible
While you were partying.
while I was partying.
How do you think, or why do you think that was?
I think it was lockdown and seeing people do well in lockdown.
Yeah, like getting healthier.
Yeah. So I just restricted my food. And then running actually made me eat more.
Do you remember though, like a point where that really started for you, or was it just like gradual shift?
I think gradual.
Yeah.
I've always been obsessed with food. I've always been obsessed with thinking that I'm too big, thinking that I'm not fit enough, I'm not like what you should ideally look like. And in lockdown it was like that moment to change everything. And so I just became obsessed. I followed all the people you probably shouldn't on Instagram.
Yeah.
All the people that have terrible advice. So I did that while I was partying, and that's I think when I found I really need to like become healthy, because I was obviously partying loads but eating nothing.
Yeah.
And
you were running.
I wasn't running at this point.
Okay.
I started running, and that's actually where I found food, because I couldn't run if I wasn't eating. So I was eating more as I was running, still trying to restrict, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But because I was running, I felt the need to eat more. And that's when it probably hit my worst, is when I met Ollie. And he knows everything about this. But then I got into this terrible cycle of throwing it all back up. So I would just eat like insane amounts of food so I could fuel for running, then exercise loads, and then throw all the food back up.
So was this like bulimia or?
I'd probably say it's like binge eating with bulimia.
Okay.
Which then led, oh, we're turning.
Yeah, that's my fault. Okay. Yes.
Which then led to me having loads of injuries. So I had stress fractures, I had every injury on my legs known to mankind.
Yeah, because there was not nutrition to recover after these runs.
And you're putting all the stress on your body by throwing up with no nutrition. And the nutrition I was getting was like secretly eating all like the cookies and the bad nutrition, and then eating like the banana in front of Ollie.
Yeah.
And
why do you think that is though, that you do then eat, say, cookies and not fruit?
Because it's bad food. It's food you're not allowed.
Okay.
Which is so stupid. All food's allowed. I now realise that.
Yeah.
And now when I do ultras, I eat all the food.
Yeah,
but
give me Oreos and burgers. And also give me fruit. But,
yeah. Exactly. It was, let me make sure we're going the right way. Oh no, we're off course. Sorry.
Turn there.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going back. Yeah, so I guess it was unlearning that food isn't bad. But I had this label in my head that it was bad.
Yes. Which a lot of people also do struggle with. Labeling foods. And I think it is hard to get rid of that, but
and mentally,
it's possible.
Exactly. Mentally in my head, I was still in that mode of like, I think it's the next one actually. Yeah, sorry, you went a little bit further down than
we
we
need to go up.
Yeah, back up that road. Yeah, I just couldn't get past that I needed to eat more for running. But eventually, I think I had a partner like yours who loves food and found it absolutely mental that I would ever track food. But he was okay with it. I stopped. And
so Ollie was really the help for you. It was not like a nutritionist or a dietitian.
No, I never found any like outside help.
Did
like
you
professional
search
help.
for it, or did you not want it?
I think I did search for it a lot. There's a lot of free charities this way. There's a lot of free charities in London and in England, and I've actually done some runs to raise money for them around mental health and eating. But I would just use their helplines, and I feel really bad that I was reaching out because I never felt like I was ill enough to reach out, because I think my illest point was probably when I weighed my most, because I was binge eating all the time. Yeah. But mentally I wasn't okay. So it's like a really hard point to be in, because you're like, I don't look like I'm ill. Yeah. And actually in England, a lot of times to get help, you need to weigh a certain amount.
That's also insane.
Which you can be, you know, not skinny at all and have a very bad eating disorder. Yeah. So I think it's such a hard position, but I guess then moving on to how I got out of that, because now I have a very good relationship with food, and with Ollie really being there for me. Yeah. So and also sometimes somebody
that doesn't share the same like illness.
He doesn't understand it at all.
Yeah.
But he was there for me and understood it, was patient, would take me to different restaurants. I'd go to restaurants and cry.
It is hard, right? So you need to find somebody that you trust. And I think if you don't have that in your partner, or you don't have a partner, it is really important to seek out a friend that will listen and will try to understand in a way. Yeah. They might not understand, but they will listen to you and not immediately judge you. Exactly. And that's the kind of friend that you need. And if you can't find that, or also even if you can find it, be open to seeking help from a professional. It's something I personally didn't do, but my parents pushed me into it. Yeah. And I'm very grateful that they did. Yeah. And I kind of wish that it had happened earlier, but I was traveling, so I wasn't around my usual friends, so it was hard. And I think that's usually a lot of the times where it does come up, when you're isolated or when you don't have that support. So it's really hard, because
I think for me, it's really embarrassing to sort of admit. I never wanted to admit it.
Because you know that it's
we've gone really rogue.
So, okay, for you, the first thing was having Ollie.
Having someone that would understand. And then I think it was also like my passion for running.
Yeah.
I loved running so much that I didn't want to give it up. And every time I had to give it up because of my injuries, I'd get really annoyed. And obviously when I went to physios, they'd be like, are you eating correctly?
Yeah.
It's weird that you're getting all these injuries. And I'm like, yeah, of course I am.
Yeah, I'm fine. How dare you ask?
Yeah, it's obviously like the shoes that I'm wearing.
Yeah.
So it was that wantingness to run made me fuel. And it was a really slow process. Like, if for ages you dip back into that, dip back out, and feeling uncomfortable.
It's funny that you say it, because I think for me, when I went to the sport dietitian, I was really hesitant when my parents said, because I was like, I want to keep running. And they said, if you want to keep running, you need to go to this dietitian.
Yeah.
And rightfully so. And later on, I think that, like, because I wanted to run, I had to eat better.
Yeah.
That was kind of just like, that was the compromise. But obviously, it's not a compromise.
Yeah.
It's actually the best of both worlds.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was so hard to see it in that moment.
And it's also, I think, hard when you finally are making those choices. When you finally make those choices to get better, I think you think it's going to be a quick change. Like, I've made this decision, I want it to happen. But that doesn't change sometimes years of bad choices or just like mentally thinking these things aren't okay.
Yeah.
And so it's such a slow process. And I think it is a lot like running. It's the commitment to being consistent.
Yeah.
If you consistently eat, even if you feel uncomfortable, consistently do the right thing when your mind's telling you no, then you will get better, and eventually those bad thoughts do go away.
Yeah.
Because we are living proof that they do.
Yeah.
But for I think a long time you're still like, how many calories is that? And it's just really slow. But the more you out of your brain, it eventually goes away, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's honestly, and this is something that I would really want to say on this episode, for a very long time, we need to go right here. And then, for a very long time, I thought that I could not be fixed.
Yeah.
I remember like being in this cycle.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So stuck. And I knew I wasn't healthy. I knew it wasn't good. I was embarrassed about it. Especially when I saw other people, like I would go to the supermarket and see people buy, croissants without thinking about it. Like they walk in, grab, go.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, how do you do that?
But even like our runs now, when we have a pastry at the end, I think if we'd have rewinded, we'd be like, oh, I can't have that. Like, can we have that croissant? No.
Yeah. Now it's like,
now look at us, we're doing pastry runs.
And I don't need to run to get the pastry, but it's just a fun combination.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, I don't know, like, I think I was stuck so much and I really thought I could not heal. And over time, it did happen. So one thing I really would want to say on this episode is if you think there's no way out, there actually is.
Yeah.
I really thought there was no way out.
It's the patience, isn't it, to commit to it? It is
patience. Patience and wanting to work on it, but I understand that, like, it's such a conflict because yes, I want to work on it, but also I don't want to change.
Yeah.
You're like, I feel good the way I look right now, even though you know it's not right.
Yeah.
But you think it's good.
Yeah.
And like,
I promise you, you'll feel better.
Yeah.
If you're fueled.
Yeah. And I think there's this period where, especially if before you get into this really bad cycle of like tracking, weight loss, whatever, if you come from being slightly maybe overweight, then in the beginning people tell you like, oh, you look so good.
Yeah.
And you don't want to lose that anymore. You think you need to keep going to keep that.
Yeah.
And the truth is, you don't. And actually it feels so much better when people tell you like, wow, you look so strong.
Yeah.
And so healthy. And I think that's really hard because you're afraid that it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Or you'll just go back to your old ways, or
yeah. And I mean, I'm so glad that I can now say, like, it is possible. You just gotta have, you gotta trust yourself. And I know that that's maybe even the hardest thing.
Yeah, I think that is.
And it takes time, but yeah,
it's worth it.
It's worth it.
It's worth it. There's two people that like to run and eat a lot. It's worth it.
Yeah, and I think also, I mean, you touched on this a little bit, but social media here is such a evil player.
Yeah.
Because it makes us see things that we shouldn't see.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get onto my Instagram Explore feed and I see these, healthy recipes, or they compare two foods and one is like the healthy version with less calories. And now I've made it practice to click on it and to say not interested.
Yes, yeah.
Because I don't want that in my feed, and that's something I would maybe recommend as well. If you know that these things trigger you,
unfollow those pages that you know aren't good for your mind.
Yeah, and if you see also that you're following somebody that, I was following this one girl that was really strong, went to the gym a lot, but then she would also share all her healthy salads, and I could just tell that was making me feel bad about myself.
Yeah, it was a trigger.
Get rid of it.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
I think
get rid of triggers.
I think that's a really good point to end on.
Yeah. So, I mean, I really hope that this helps. And I would also say, if you're watching this and you struggle, seek help.
Yeah. This is just our thoughts on our personal stories. So obviously,
exactly. This is very subjective.
Yeah.
Everybody's in a different situation. Also, the type of eating disorder that you might have, or the way that you struggle with eating. Maybe you don't have an eating disorder. Also important. You don't have to have an ED to seek help. Maybe you can just feel like, I'm getting obsessed. So if you are in that situation, then please just seek help. Go to a friend that you trust. Talk about it. If you can't find a friend or you find it too embarrassing, seek out help from a professional or one of these organizations, which there are in many countries. And trust in yourself.
Yeah.
Even though it might be so hard.
Yeah.
It is possible to heal.
It is.
All right. That was this episode of 3 Miles.
What?
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.